Hey, so today I want to talk about how to edit your photos when you're in a mixed lighting situation. So I'm talking about photos like this, where you're in a place where there's overhead lights above and they're casting a yellow glow on your subject, but you also have large windows with natural light coming in. And we know that outdoor light has a blue tint. So as you get window light that's blue mixing in with overhead yellow lights, then you're getting kind of a mixed color look on your subject, which can be kind of tricky to edit. So I came up with a way to edit these photos so that it minimizes that muddiness or a bit of that yellow glow so that you get a little bit more pure color in your subject. Because sometimes we're in a situation where we can't really control the lighting. We can't really reduce either the overhead lights, or we can't reduce the amount of light coming in from the outside if there's big windows, especially in restaurants where you can't really move around that much or turn off the lights. So I wanted to work on this photo and show you from beginning to end how I edited it. And also I'm going to show you how to create a preset so that next time you're out taking photos in a similar lighting situation, you can just use this preset and apply it to your photo and then tweak it a little further based on your photo. But at least you have a starting point and you have a way to sort of correct for this mixed lighting look. So let's jump in with Lightroom Mobile. All right, so let's start by creating a preset for this mixed lighting photo. This photo was taken at a restaurant where there's overhead yellow lights, as well as a large window with natural light coming in and hitting this table. So you can see from the reflection on the marble table that there's yellow lights right above. And you can also see that there's shadows on the top right corner or edge of this plate, as well as this coffee mug. Yet there's natural soft window light coming from the top of the image. You don't really see the shadows being created by the window light coming from the top of the frame here. And that's because it's really soft indirect light. So the edges of the shadow are really smooth. Actually, if we zoom in here, you can see a little bit of the shadow underneath this plate. It's very soft, it's very faint, but then you see this really sharp edge shadow coming towards the top of the plate, and that's coming from the overhead lights, as well as here by the croissant here, you can see the croissant shadow right onto the plate. So this is kind of muddy. There's a bit of yellow, there's a bit of blue in here. It's not my ideal lighting situation, but sometimes we just can't control where we're at, and we have to just take a photo and then rely on Lightroom editing to minimize some of this muddiness. So let's get started. I'm going to start by just giving this photo a general edit, the way that I usually edit, and then I'm going to do some tweaks with the coloring after to minimize a little bit of the mixed light situation here. So I'm going to start by going into light. So you want to click on the light icon at the bottom left here. And then I'm going to bring up the exposure just a little bit. I find this photo is a little bit too dark, so I'm just going to increase the exposure. So as you follow along, just input these settings in your Lightroom Mobile, and then at the end, you're going to save all these settings into a new preset so that you can apply it to your next photos. So I also increase a little bit of contrast, just to give it a little bit of pop. With the highlights, I'm going to bring it up and down just to see what happens on this photo. I'm okay with bringing it up just a little bit, so maybe plus 23. With the shadows, I'm going to bring it up just a little bit more, and that'll just help to brighten up some of the shadow areas in the croissants. And then with the whites again, I'm just going to check to see what it does on this picture. I might not do too much with this one, so I'm going to leave it at 0. And then I'm going to bring down blacks just to give it a little bit more high contrast pop in the shadows there. And there we go. I think I'm happy with this. I'm going to tap on the screen, tap and hold to see the before and after, just to see my progression. The next thing I'm going to do is go into effects. So that's just 3 icons over from the light icon. I'm going to start with effects, and I'm going to bring up the texture just a little bit. And this just adds a little bit more detailed contrast on the edges in the picture. Clarity is similar too, it's just a little bit more of a finer adjustment. And then I'm going to go to vignette. I'm not sure that I want to add much vignette to this. You see, as I darken the corners of the image, it's not really helping my image, and it's not really the purpose of this effect for this photo, so I'm going to keep the vignette out of this. Then I'm going to go to detail, which is the triangle icon right next to effects. And in here, like I do on all my photos, I just increase the sharpening to about 70. And then I go over to noise and I do the noise reduction to about about 60 or 70 as well. All right, so this is sort of my generic base preset that I would put on a photo like this. I'm going to now jump into color. So we're going to click on the color icon right next to the light icon. Here's where you would start by adjusting the white balance. So as you see, if I'm, wanting to add more blue to minimize the yellow overhead lights, then it's making the light cast by the window, which is already blue light, a little too blue, and this is not what I want. But in the same way, if I go on the other side of this temperature scale, if I add too much yellow to minimize some of that blue coming from the blue window light, then I'm amplifying a little bit more of that yellow light coming from above. So as you can see, when you get mixed lighting, you can't really use your white balance to correct any of this. So I'm gonna maybe add just a little bit more yellow because I like a warm image, but I'm going to tweak further with some other tools in a little bit. I'm also going to add a little bit of magenta. I tend to like photos that are a little bit more yellow, a little bit more magenta. So I'm often adding this to my presets. And in terms of vibrance and saturation, I don't feel like this photo needs much more increased saturation. So I'm going to leave these two sliders on their own. Okay, now we're gonna jump into the fun stuff. So staying in the color adjustments tool, we're gonna go to the top of the color adjustments tool and find the color mix icon. So you're going to click on this, and this is where you're going to see a bunch of different colored circles. And all of these circles are a tool that will specifically adjust just the pixels that fall under that color range. So knowing that I want to minimize sort of that orange glow in my images, I'm going to go to the orange color, click on that, and now I have hue, saturation, and luminance. So I can make my oranges more red or more green, which I don't want to do, but you could do it there. And in the same way, I can also use the saturation slider to increase the saturation of just the oranges or decrease it. So this is where I want to decrease it just a little bit when I have mixed lighting. So I'm just going to bring it down just a touch. And with luminance, this brings up the darkness or brightness of my orange pixels. And in this case, I'm okay leaving it just at 0. So I'm just going to bring down the saturation for my oranges just a little bit. I'm going to go into the blues as well, and I'm going to bring down the saturation of the blue just a little bit as well. And I'm going to increase the luminance of the blue a little bit. And I just want to see the effects that it has on the image. It's not really evident, but if you look, if I bring down the luminance of the blue, you'll see the shadows, especially around this coffee cup here, just go a little bit darker. So again, I'm going to show you with the luminance just in the middle for blue, the shadow is minimized a little bit, but as I go darker, you see more of the shadow. In the same way, if I go to the right, that shadow minimizes even more. And this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to soften some of these shadow areas. So as I bring up the luminance on the blue, it kind of softens it just a little bit. All right, now that I'm done with this, I'm going to click on done. And there's one thing that I forgot to do, and that's straightening and cropping the photo. So I'm going to go to the crop tool, which is at the bottom here. And I'm going to rotate this so that it's level with the table. I'm going to bring it in because I actually just want it to be just the table that we're seeing and nothing around it. There we go. Okay, so now that I did all these adjustments, I'm going to click on the before and the after, and it just cleans up this image. It makes it a lot more bright, a lot more neutral, a lot more beautiful to look at, and helps to minimize the shadows and the mix of yellow and blue light in this image. I'm really happy with it. There's maybe one last thing that I want to fix, and that's this shadow here at the bottom of the table. And that's actually, it was just me standing right there. So it's a shadow cast by me. And I don't want this in the picture because I don't want me to appear in any way in the picture. It's not about me, it's about this flat lace. So I'm gonna use the content aware remove tool. So that's by going into this band-aid icon. So that's at the bottom right. And then click on remove, select the remove tool. And then you're gonna look at your brush size. So I want my brush size to be just a little bit bigger than the object that I'm removing. And then I'm just gonna paint over that shadow. I'm gonna let it figure it out and remove it, and that looks much better. There we go, before and after. Awesome, okay. So I am happy, I am done with this picture. So the next step is exporting it as a JPEG and sharing it online, but also creating a preset so that next time I come across a similar situation, I can just paste this preset on my next photo and it saves me tons of editing work. And it also helps my pictures to stay consistent across the board. So to create a preset with the effects you already applied on your current photo, go to the top right corner and you'll see that circle with the 3 dots. Click on that and then click on Create Preset from the drop-down menu. And in Create Preset, we're going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Blue and Yellow Neutralizer. And then I'm going to make sure it's being saved in the preset group User Preset so it's easy to find it. And once I'm done naming it, click on the check mark in the top right corner. And now it's saved. So now what I'm going to do is test this preset on a similar photo. So this is another photo that I took in the same situation. So I'm gonna apply the preset to this picture. To apply a preset after you've saved it, go to the bottom left corner and you're going to see your presets icon. And that's 2 circles, a white circle and a black circle converging together. Those are your presets. So click on that, make sure you're in User Presets, and then I'm going to click on the name of the preset that I created. So it's called Blue and Yellow Neutralizer. I'm going to click on that. To apply it, click on the check mark in the bottom right corner. And there we go. With the click of a finger, I'm able to edit a photo pretty quickly. I'm going to click on the before and after. I might tweak this a little bit because this picture has slightly different exposure and contrast in here, so I might want to tweak it extra. But now I know that as I'm taking photos in one similar situation, if I'm taking multiple photos, I don't have to go and edit each one individually. I just apply this preset and then my collection of photos look consistent, quality, and beautiful. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this will help you with all your future photos taken in mixed lighting situations.